What's good, YouTube? It's Rico here, and I've got a deck profile slash regional report. I just came back from the Timonium regional. Timonium, Maryland is pretty much Baltimore. It's like that area, and the deck I decided to play was Metalfoes. So I spent the past few weeks like deciding what deck I wanted to play because originally I was going to play Lightsworn Shiranui, and then I decided to try and play Monarch, and then I was having issues with that, so I switched back to Lightsworn Shiranui, and I was having problems with that too because I don't have Minerva. So I just like the past week I was just having a deck crisis, like what deck did I want to play? And I had originally written off Metalfoes because I didn't have all the things for it, and I didn't want to like buy them. Like I didn't have Raccoons, I didn't have Infinity or Monolith. So I actually decided to just borrow. I asked friends of mine who had the cards to borrow them, and like as I playtested it more, I realized that I really enjoyed it, and so I said screw it. And when I got there, I just bought everything I still needed, and aside from like one card, but so yeah, I just bought everything I needed, and it worked really well. I got 26th out of like I think 300 people, and it was a top 32 cutoff. So like I got my invite. That's really good. But it was I went 6-3, but I had insanely good tiebreakers. Like I got so lucky. I lost round 4 to, well, let's see, my round 1 I played Metalfoes Odd Eyes and beat him. Round 2 I played Counter Fairy Stun. He's a guy I know from like various locals, and I've played him like every single tournament we've both entered, and it's ridiculous. But I beat him. He was playing Counter Fairy Stun. I beat Shiranui player, and he double bricked, so that was part of it. But like, I was the only person. I found out later that day I was the only person who beat him, and he got 7th place. So that was a really good tiebreaker for me. Round 4, I lost to Blue Eyes because that matchup sucks, and I bricked. I bricked game 2, but he ended up going X2-1, so that was a good tiebreaker for me too because he placed above me. And then round 5 was Demise Cosmo, and I beat him. Round 6 was Magispector Magician, and game 1 went to time, and I won it, so I beat him 1-0. Round 7 was Metalfoes Mirror, and it was the most insane mirror match, and like one of the greatest games I've ever played, but I clutched it out at the very end, and I'll go into that later, because there was like one specific MVP card of that match. I won that. And then I lost round 8 to Magispector on a misplay, but looking back at it, I think he had control of the game anyway. But he was guaranteed X2 at that point. He might have gone X1, I don't know. So that was a really good tiebreaker. And then round 9, I lost to Atlantean because I bricked again. But like, that was like 3 bricks out of the entire day. And like, my tiebreakers were so good, so I ended up getting 26th. And my friend of mine who was playing Herald of Perfection, like he had decent tiebreakers, and he ended up getting 30th, even though he won X3. So yeah, it was a really good day overall. The deck's really consistent. It has an insanely good grind game. It's a lot of fun. Like I've been playtesting this since like early summer, and like I was telling myself I was gonna build it, and then like when they hit Unicorn, I was like, well, now I need Monolith. But I just sucked it up and bought Monolith, and it's so good, and it gets better in the next set, and like, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing this deck, and it worked out, definitely. So, yeah, let's get into it. Oh, and I got a new mat. Like, right before the last round, like, I sat down to play one of my friends, and he pulled out the Lightsworn mat from the Japanese structure deck. And I said, oh, that looks really cool. And I was like, I love that mat because I love Lightsworns. He was like, you want it? And like he offered a value, and then like we just agreed. I traded my Burkers a Shadow mat for it, which is like, I think that's a fair trade. So I love this mat, and I just love the Lightsworns in general, even though they're a really sacky deck. But yeah, so yeah, so it was 42 cards. I played obviously all the Metalfoes, 3 Gold Driver, 3 Silver, 3 Steelin, 3 Volflame. This is no question. You have to play all of them. Like if you play any less and you're playing pure Metalfoes, then like something's wrong. I played Scout Monolith. Cyber Dragon Infinity was really clutch for most of the day. I think there were a couple games where he didn't really help, but for the most part he was really good, and this was definitely worth it. and 3 Archfiend Eccentric, yeah, 3 Bunbuku, 1 Kieran. A lot of it's pretty straightforward. And 1 Luster Pendulum. He's like, I don't see him a lot, obviously, because he's limited and you can't really search him outside of Ignister. But he is useful because he just extends your plays further. And that's all the pendulums. And I run 3 Gofu. This guy's insane. Like, he's good in a lot of decks, but he's so damn good in this deck. Just being level 5 lets you make like level 8 synchro plays. He generates like 3 things to pop. He lets you make Zulkin. He's so good in this deck. It's like Gofu is good in a lot of decks, but the only 2 decks I can think of that really abuse the shit out of him off the top of my head are this and Dark Synchro. And like he's just so godlike. Like it's insane. And then 2 Geoghan. I'm like half and half on this card because like Geoghan, like the locking out special summons is really good, but a lot of the times I found that I couldn't make a play if I pendulum summon Geoghan, so I would make the play and then I would normal him and be like, oh well, I got a 200 attack monster on the board, like anything runs over it. And the like special summon nuke thing, that effect only came up like maybe 2 or 3 times, and every time it didn't really help me that much. So I've been considering switching this out for Fossil Dyna, and like the one time where I can think of where having Fossil Dyna definitely would have been better was when I played against a Blue Eyes player where I opened Cyber Dragon Infinity against him and Geoghan, but he ran over it with Whitestone of the Ancients, and then he just killed me. But if it had been Fossil Dyna, I probably would have won because he wouldn't have been able to run it over, and then he couldn't kill it because I had Infinity on the board. So I'm actually really considering doing Fossil Dyna over Geoghan, but I need to look into it more. But overall, this was not bad. I was really only playing 1 because I only had 1, but a friend of mine had 1, so I just bought it off of him. And probably the 1 card in the entire like main, extra, and side. Like out of all of these, there's 1 card that I absolutely hated, and it was Rescue Rabbit. So on paper, this guy was amazing because you summon him. Like if you're going first, you summon him. You summon like 2 silvers or whatever, like 2 gold drivers. You pop them and it's free setup. Or like if you're going second, you can just make Grand Pulse and clear the board. It was so good on paper, and like it was the worst thing today. Like the going second thing never came up. I didn't really open it that much, and whenever I drew it late game, it was always dead. And like the few times I did activate it, it got negated. Like this card was fucking awful, and like I almost always sided it out. And the one time I forgot to side it out, I lost because I opened it with the Bunbuku. Oh, that's the other thing. It clashes with the Bunbuku. Like I can't normal both, and I don't get a lot out of pendulum summoning this unless I have fusion. So yeah, if it was at more, if I was a number bigger than 1, so if it was like a 2 or 3, I'd probably consider it. But it's so bad with only 1 copy. Like I hated this card. I'm definitely cutting this. Yeah, that's all the monsters. And then for spells, it was BP and Full Decision. 3 Summoners Art. I think some people play 2, but like, if you want to open like Scout and or Volflame, like the fact that you're just running Scout, like you might as well run 3 of them because you want to open that play, and like it's easy to side out one of them. I did it a lot. I usually sided out like the 3 ofs. Like I never sided out like the decisions, although I would consider it, but I usually sided out like Summoner's Art, 1 Gofu, and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and the 1 card I didn't buy for myself and just borrowed from a friend of mine was 3 Pot of Desires. I'm not going to buy that. It's $80, and I don't think it's 100% necessary in this deck. I think it's very much playable without it. I won't deny that there were a lot of times where Pot of Desires was super clutch and probably won me the game. And there was only maybe 1 time where it legitimately lost me the game, but I was already in a bad spot anyway, so it didn't really matter. So, but like, there were also just as many games where I never saw it and I won anyway, so I think it's really good, and I think if you have the means to get Desires, and you're willing to spend the money on it, because that is like $250 or more, like it's definitely worth getting, at least running 2. I personally really like 3 because like people are afraid that like, oh, if I run 3 I might draw into it. That happened to me maybe once, and I don't think it happened to me all day, like in the actual tournament. It happened to me while like playtesting. But like I very rarely played Desires and drew into another one. So
So it's really good. I just don't feel like dropping 270 or whatever it is on it, and like I think it's playable without it. And like I played it because I had the opportunity to, because my friend wasn't able to go to the regional, and he had a playset that he managed to pull. So yeah. If I didn't have them, then I would have just cut the 40 cards and put in an Upstart Goblin. So yeah. And then the last spell was obviously Metalfoes Fusion. And for traps, I played 2 counter and 1 combination. I see a lot of people, like, some people do this, some people do just the 3 counter. I was doing 3 counter and 1 combination, and then just cut one of the counters for the second Geoghan, which I didn't mind too much. Like, I don't mind having, like, all the counters, but, like, I think combination's important because it lets you make plays with Archie and Eccentric if you go first, because if you like set this and you have Eccentric in hand, that pretty much turns Eccentric into a Metalfoes, and like it increases the deck ceiling but doesn't really lower the consistency, and like it's kind of weakens the grind game because it gets rid of one of the searches for these, and it also makes it so that you can't, like, you're also running like 1 less counter, which I guess comes up a couple times, but I don't think it's significant enough where it really cost me anything. Like the Metalfoes player I was playing against, I don't think he was playing combination, but I know he was playing 3 counter, and I still ended up winning. Like I still outrounded him. So, like, I do think combination is really important. But yeah. And then Vanity's Emptiness. This was pretty godlike. I don't know if it actually won me anything, but it was pretty godlike. That was the main deck. Like I said, it was 42, but if I didn't have Desires, it would have been 40 with 1 Upstart Goblin. So, yeah. And then for extra deck, I played 3 Orichalc and 1 Adamantine. I think you have to play 3. Like, I've heard some people play 1 and 1. No, you have to play 3. There were a lot of games where I made all 3 of these. Like, even if I wasn't doing the Zoltan play, sometimes I would just do Adamantine just to get Fusion back into my graveyard to shuffle back. Like, I think 3 is the right number. And like the double Orichalc did come up a lot. There was one game against a Magic Spectre player, I actually Orichalced and then I fusioned it into the second Orichalc to get the pop. So yeah, that was good. And I also like I said, I used every card in this deck except for Rabbit at some point, or like I at least intended to use it at some point. Big Eye. This was the clutchest thing ever. This this single-handedly won me the Magic Spectre, like almost single-handedly won me won me the Metalfoes mirror, because what had happened the previous turn, he had a Zulkin from the turn even before that, where he had summoned the Void Ogre, and I had managed to kill it. So he had a Zulkin, and like I think that was the only thing he had, and like he had set into Ignister, and I flipped both of Eclipse, which I sided, and to flip everything down. But then he just flipped Zulkin back up and set it again and summoned Crystal Wing. And then like he pushed through and like managed to hit me with everything. His ending board was Zulkin, Crystal Wing, Ignister, and Orichalc. And like I had nothing. I had 2 counters set and 2 scales, and that was it. And he had like 2 back row set. So like everybody was looking at like this game, like everybody thought the game was like in his favor and he was gonna win. And on my turn, I had Bambuku in hand, and I drew into Gamma Seal, which I also sided, obviously. And so I Gamma Sealed the Crystal Wing, and then I summoned the Bambuku to search the Kirin, and then I used the first scale to try and pop Bambuku, and he Cosmic Cyclones it. So then I use the second scale to pop the Bambuku, and I set Fusion. It just set whatever, it didn't matter. And then I activate both counters. I summon 2 Volflames. I make Big Eye. I take his Ignister. I use it to special summon my own Luster. I tribute the Big Eye to summon Kirin. I bounce the Luster to my hand and bounce the Orichalc back to his deck. I run over the Gamma Seal with Ignister, and I run over the Zulkin with Kirin. In main phase 2, I set the scale with Luster. I pop the silver that was in my extract just to get the other one. I activate it. I Pendulum 3. I make Grand Pulse and pass, and he scoops. And so like this and Gamma Seal like together, like I might have been able to do it even without the Gamma Seal, but this was the big player that won me that match. I was probably gonna lose if I didn't have this. It was so important, and it won me one of the games in my round 1 also. Like Big Eyes is amazing, and I think like you should play one of every possible rank except for 2, because like what good rank 2s are there aside from like Centauria, and he's not worth it. Like you should play at least 1 3. I think you should play 2 3s, 1 to 2 4s, and 1 7. And like this is the best rank 7 in my opinion. It's better than Red Eyes. So yeah, especially because we're no longer in a format where nothing can get targeted, because like Cosmo's not a thing, Monarch's not a thing. Like things can be targeted again, so it's really good. And then Nova Infinity, obviously. Utopia the Lightning. This is the rank 4 I went into almost all the time. There was one time where I made Castel instead, and that's just because the result was the same either way, and I just didn't want to blow out Utopia. Even though you're only going to make one a game anyway, unless you like combination back a Gold Driver, but I never use combinations first effect. Castel was mainly for Floodgate stuff. Like if I had to Floodgate away something, or spin away a Floodgate, but that never came up. I didn't see anti-spell fragrance at all, actually. That really surprised me. I wonder if people just didn't get lucky, or it's just a habit. I played 1 Grampulse. I originally played this because I didn't have Break Sword, but the more I think about it, I really like this over Break Sword because because Break Sword usually has to like pop itself, or like pop another card, but Grampulse, I can detach pop a card without popping himself, and then I can pop him for Metalfoes. But also, like, the 2800 defense came in a lot where I just, like, sat on it. That won me my game 1, or my round 1 went to time, and I had, like, Bunbuku and Eccentric and, like, Ghost Ogre. And I, like, Pendulum summoned all of them in main phase 2, and then I overlaid into Grample so he couldn't hit me enough damage for game. So that was really Totem Bird, obviously, for the double Raccoon. That was all the Xyzs. And then for Synchros, I played Crystal Wing, Ignister, Omega, and Zulkin. There were actually 4 opportunities where I could have played Zulkin, but I screwed up 2 of them. One of them I got Max Seed, so I only actually ever summoned Zulkin once. But I could have done it more than that. I just messed it up. I overthought about it. Ignister and Crystal Wing were both clutch. Ignister was super clutch. Crystal Wing was clutch the one time I used them. Omega was actually pretty good. I know some people play Beals, but I only really like that in again in the Blue Eyes matchup. But like I don't know how often that's gonna be. Like I feel like they might have an answer to it anyway. But it's like, yeah. And then there was also like Void Ogre, but it doesn't seem that great to me because it clashes with Karen. That's the extra deck. Side deck, and like I said, all of these went in at some point. 3 Gamma Seal, this went in against damn near everything. I think the only thing I didn't side this in against was like the counter fairy stun guy because he blocks out special summons, and the mirror just because I figured Book of Eclipse would be enough. And then 2 DD Crow. I sided this in against Blue Eyes and it didn't see it because I bricked. Sided in against Demise Cosmo and it stopped an Oasis. That was good. And I sided in against Atlantean and didn't see it. It was actually after he OTK'd me game 3. I looked at the next card and it was DD Crow and I was super salty. 2 Ghost Ogre. This was clutch in the round 1, but for not the reason I expected. It was because she was a rank 3. And then it was clutch in the Metalfoes mirror. It helped me win game 2. Because like he Ghost Ogred me, but then I Ghost Ogred him back. So yeah, this was really good. And then I sided in against Atlantean and didn't see it. So 2 Maxie. This was probably the least clutch out of all of them because I only sided in against Shiranui. I didn't play Burning Abyss. And it didn't matter because I didn't draw it and he bricked anyway. So yeah, it would have been good. Like I don't feel comfortable not playing Maxie, but it was probably the least clutch out of all of them, which I'm okay with because I have a deep burning hatred for this card and everything it stands for. 2 Book of Eclipse. This was amazing. I sided in against Blue Eyes and like anything that was like super like the counter fairy stun, just like anything that was like super floodgate monsters. And I sided in the mirror just because I figured this Gamma Seal doesn't hit Geoghan, but it hits Infinity. This doesn't hit Infinity, but it hits Geoghan, and I figured Geoghan would be a bigger problem. So I just Book of Eclipse, and it won me the match because I was able to stop Ignister. So yeah, which was amazing. For the MST, if I suspected anti-spell fragrance, I sided out eccentric and put this in, and then if I was playing like heavy back row stuff, I would just like keep both of them in. It was surprisingly easy to side with this deck, which is another thing I really liked about it. And then Raigeki. This went in for the counter fairy deck, but that was like this is for rogue. But like Maxie, I don't feel comfortable playing without it. And that was the entire deck. It performed really well. My losses were mainly mistakes and maybe 1 or 2 bricks, but I misplayed most of the games I lost. So I will chalk that up to my own mistakes, but it worked out in the end. I still got 26. I got another invite. So hopefully I can go to Nats this season. Yeah. I think when the next set comes out, like I'm gonna build ABC, but I'm not gonna like play it. Probably. I think I mentioned this before, but I like ABC, but I hate the mirror match. I hate everything that you side against it. Like it just seems everything about it just seems awful, aside from the deck itself being good. So like I don't really feel comfortable playing ABC because this is so easy to deal with. Well, it's not really easy to deal with, but like it has so many like answers to it that's just like screwed up really bad. So yeah, I'm probably gonna play either Metalfoes or like Tree Toad spam when Invasion Vengeance comes out. One of those two. I'm actually I don't know which one. I'll probably just build both. So yeah, and that's all for now. Then yeah, I got another invite. It's a good time. Thanks for watching YouTube. We'll see you next time. Deuces.